On our News Hour panel tonight, I am joined by Ranjit Kumar, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, Aman Lekhi, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, Sushil Kumar is the lawyer for Mr. Raja, Mr. A. Raja, TSR Subramanian, former Cabinet Secretary, Siddharth Nath Singh, BJP leader and spokesperson. My first question to Subramanian Swamy, petitioner in the 2G case and President of the Janata Party. Mr. Swamy, I heard you speaking to our reporter earlier today. And, you said there may be fresh revelations. I may have to pull out something new. What fresh revelations? Are you sitting on new papers? And if you are sitting on new papers, why aren't you disclosing them?
Well, I'm a litigant in two courts. One is the Supreme Court and the other is the trial court. In the Supreme Court, I have to just make out a case that there are a number of facts which Mr. Chidambaram has knowledge of, and the CBI under Section 161 of the CRPC has to investigate him. They are investigating Mr. Jaswant Singh and Mr. Arun Shourie, about whom nobody talks about the criminality. What criminality has Jaswant Singh and Arun Shourie done? But they are being investigated. Now, Mr. Chidambaram was in the loop in every decision, and the question of criminality I will deal in the trial court. And in the trial court, the question will arise as to what kind of documentation I am nailing him with. Here, the question would only arise if somebody if there was any question from the Chidambaram's counsel side or the CBI counsel side, asking for some clinching evidence that Mr. Chidambaram actually had a malified intention. For that, although it's not necessary for a CBI inquiry, but if that came up, I would certainly present some new documents.
No, what precisely? No, please be specific, Mr. Swamy, tonight. The crux of the 2G scam is corruption, where Raja twisted the rules to favor certain companies for which he received kickback. Where is that malified action?
Well, you just had Mr. Singhvi complain that I'm telling Times Now too many things.
No, my question is, sir, you say as much as is required for the truth to emerge. Can you please tell me how you can equate the actions of Mr. Raja with the lack of action of Mr. Chidambaram?
I don't know whether you have read the FIR or not. The FIR makes two charges against Mr. Raja. One is that he fixed the price at 2001.
Yes.
And the second one is that he favored Swan and Unitech and allowed them to sell the shares after getting the shares at 8 times the price they paid to the government of India to Etisalat and Telenor. Now, I can produce documents which show that Mr. Raja did it on the advice of Mr. Chidambaram. And there is a file on that. And that file I can produce in court if it's necessary. But if it's not necessary, I'll go and produce it in the trial court, definitely.
Interesting. I want a response, quick response from Mr. Ranjit Kumar. Mr. Kumar? Yes, Mr. Kumar, you heard what Mr. Subramanian Swamy has said? He says, I can produce...
I heard.
Yes.
So if he has some material before him, which he wants to produce before the court or the investigating agency, he is free to do so. He is a complainant. And if the court takes cognizance of such papers, the court can examine those papers. If the court does not take cognizance, then the paper will be of no value.
My simple question is, the whole nation is debating this issue, Mr. Subramanian Swamy. Are you releasing information in parts and phases? And if so, why?
No, it's no question of releasing information in parts. Listen, this debate has become ridiculous in the public domain, where they say all kinds of things, that where is the criminality? The criminality is not a question when you're asking for an investigation. And the rule, the CRPC 161 is very clear that if you know of anybody who is likely to know the facts and circumstances of the matter, then they should be examined. So Mr. Chidambaram clearly knew about the facts and circumstances. His name appears in 4 meetings with Raja. He has written 2 big letters, one to the Prime Minister, one to Mr. Raja also. And therefore the question, and the note now, this is not a note, actually it's wrong to call it note, it's an office memorandum, which amounts
to nothing. Which amounts to nothing, says the government. Which amounts to the personal opinion of a junior officer, says Salman Khurshid.
There's no junior officer, deputy director. You don't know what a senior officer and a junior officer is. A deputy director is not a junior officer.
Not the last word. That's the point being made. Not the last word.
What do you mean by last word? It's an office memorandum. It has got a file number. It has now become part of the document. You never send a file office memorandum without it having a sense of finality. You have not been a minister. You do not know this.
I'm simply asking the question here. Though we are fully aware that it was the Prime Minister's office which itself...
I'm telling you now.
Yes.
I'm telling you now, don't call it a note. Don't call it a note, it's an office memorandum.
An office memorandum. I want to join Mr. TSR Subramaniam here right now. Mr. Subramaniam, let's look at the politics of it. How are you viewing this infinite feuding that is going on right now at the highest levels of the government?
Pranav, it's not for me. Arnab, it's not for me to talk about infighting. Clearly, all is not well within the government. That's been obvious for quite some time now. There have been many straws in the wind which point in that direction. That I suppose any common person sees, and I don't have any special knowledge of what is going on inside, though I have my own information about it. But I would like to talk about it. But looking at the issues that we have just now discussed, what distresses me is this. We have had a full-fledged commission, Shivraj Patil Commission. At that time, it was felt that the commission was there to broadly bring out a couple of small things and keep the other skeletons inside the cupboard. Now, new papers are emerging every 15 days, every month with a great regularity. And I personally know of some more papers which have so far not seen the light of day. I now suspect that we have only seen 15-20% of the total paperwork. So there must now be, within 15 days, somebody to step in and then say, every paper in 6 ministries, in the Law Ministry, Cabinet Secretariat, in the PMO, Telecom, Finance, every other ministry concerned, and including the Devas and Antrix which started the entire show, which has been dropped out of sight. It has been, I wouldn't say whitewash, it has been sort of covered in cotton wool and kept outside. I think now it is time. We cannot now play around like this. What is CBI? Why was this office memorandum not unearthed by the CBI? What inquiry are they doing? If they're doing a serious inquiry, they should have gone to every department concerned. Yeah. Number one. Number two, this is an office memorandum. And here, don't forget, the appointment of ministers are done by under secretaries. You don't ask a prime minister to sign the appointment letter.
Mr. Subramaniam, Mr. Subramaniam,
from under secretary to secretary, secretaries usually don't sign letters.
Mr. Subramaniam.
So the under secretary, if an office memorandum, it is the considered view of the ministry.
Mr.
It is a considered view of the ministry. And that has to be accepted. I mean, that's a technical position.
Let's look at the defense the government will present, right? The defense Mr. Chidambaram will present and the government will present. Mr. Prime Minister always presents this view that, you know, I don't get into details of what my ministers do. I can be faulted for perhaps giving too much leeway. And no, 1 minute, Mr. Swamy. Giving too much leeway and failing to read the intent behind what my ministerial colleagues did. But I can't be faulted for malify the intent. It's more or less the same argument that Mr. Chidambaram may present. That this is my point of view, but prove to me the malify the intent.
Where?
Prove to me the malify the intent.
Where will he present this?
No, if he presents this view
where
in his party...
Where will he present this? In Times Now or in a court?
I have not had the privilege of speaking to Mr. Chidambaram. But I'm saying if he presents this point of view.
Where? If he presents in a trial court, it's a different matter. If he there's nothing for him to present in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has just to consider whether the CBI has looked at all the documents and all the facts. And it's pretty clear that the CBI has not. CBI has not gone beyond November 22, 2007. All the action has taken place after 10th January. And therefore, the CBI is in fact truncated the investigation and it needs to be pulled up. Today, the CBI director called 15 journalists and gave them a background briefing that there's nothing in all this. This is very extraordinary that the CBI director should be doing this.
Again, you're claiming that the CBI is part of one particular cover-up which is happening in this case. You're saying that they're attempting to cover it up and also spread that story in the media.
Because of the monitoring, they are not able to cover up fully. That's why the case has gone this far.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that the CBI did not, despite the CAG saying despite so many documents coming, the CBI has not done any investigation as far as Mr. Chidambaram is concerned.
One minute. I go to other panelists. Let me go across now to Mr. Sushil Kumar. 1 minute, Mr. Ranjit Kumar. I want to go to Mr. Sushil Kumar, who is Mr. A. Raja's lawyer. Siddharth Nath Singh, just coming to you. I want to understand the legality of it first, very quickly. Sushil Kumar, my question to you is, how does this benefit Mr. A. Raja? We found it very interesting. Your client, Mr. A. Raja.
Well, it directly benefits him because in the meeting which was attended by Raja, Mr. Chidambaram and Mr. Manmohan Singh, it was clarified that this transfer of equity or the dilution of equity is not sale of the license. That is the whole case of the prosecution. If it is established that it was really decided in that meeting, he is exonerated completely because the rate was already fixed in 2001. Nobody could change it because it was a cabinet decision. If these 2 points go, the whole prosecution goes.
Mr. Swamy?
Yes.
You feel
No, that's why I want this correction to take place. And that's why I'm saying that if you go into this trial without Chidambaram in it, then Mr. Raja will have no difficulty getting out.
Now let me join Mr. Aman Lekhi. Mr. Aman Lekhi, you know, there are different plots that are building in all of this. I want you to first comment on what you've heard from Mr. Subramanian Swamy, that if required, he will pull out more material to argue his case of malafide intent. Mr. Lekhi.
You don't need more material. In fact, what is announced as Raja's policy is in fact the policy of the Government of India, for which the ministers are collectively responsible. The government transacts business according to rules. The rules are constitutional in nature, and these rules stipulate that if there is an issue involving financial implication where the finance minister requires a meeting of the cabinet, or if there are difference of opinions between the ministers, then a meeting of the cabinet is summoned. Admittedly, the finance ministry and the law ministry was in the loop all through, but at no point of time was the cabinet meeting summoned. When the cabinet meeting is not summoned, applying the principle of collective responsibility and the acquiescence of the concerned ministries in what was going on, it is deemed acceptance of what is going on. So it cannot be said that it was not the policy of the Government of India, in which all the ministers are actually involved, and was policy of a particular ministry only. That apart, in terms of the third schedule to the transaction business rules, the Prime Minister himself can summon to himself any matter concerning the government. Now, it is amusing to hear the Prime Minister say that he wants to be kept at arm's length. The Prime Minister, the head of the government, it is he who is the face of the government. The policy of the government actually rests with him. And the Prime Minister cannot divest himself of the responsibility of running the government, or for that matter controlling the ministers.
But for that matter,
enough to say it is not.
For that matter, Mr. Sushil Kumar, who's Mr. A. Raja's lawyer, also cannot come around and say that his client is innocent.
No.
At the most, more people are guilty.
Just give me a minute.
Yes.
No. It's not a question of more people are guilty. It's a question, please understand this. Now, insofar as this case is concerned, whatever the activists may be saying, it's a question of policy. Now, merely because the policy could have been different, or a different policy could have in fact been effected, doesn't make the choice of the policy in fact criminal, which is in fact the moot point. Now, the CBI says very rightly that Chidambaram cannot be involved. Okay, fine. If Chidambaram cannot be involved because the question of policy and just happened to be in the government, on the same logic and principle, the whole prosecution against the others is wholly unfounded. Now, what actually happened here was that, like the Circus Maximus style, what they wanted was basically feeding the present sort of accused the lions and basically savor the spectacle from the sidelines. What has happened now is that because the inherent flaw in this particular case, their own conduct has come to haunt them, and the very principle which they sought to invoke to show criminality where the others are concerned is something which is going to ensnare them in the entire case itself. This is not a criminal. I have always maintained this, that it is a question of policy. And when you formulate a policy, you can always take into account many different facets of it, not necessarily all of which will be of primary importance. Now, you talk about loss. If the focus of the policy was insofar as spread was concerned, now loss is secondary. Now, mainly because loss happened would not make the policy criminal. That may be the reason why the CBI may be saying that Chidambaram should not be involved because there is no criminality in it. But if that is so, then in that event, the whole case collapses, because you cannot segregate Chidambaram on one side and the other ministers, the ministries on the other.